Ed Sheeran and Taylor Swift's first collaboration was the song Everything Has Changed on her 2012 album Red. And he also was the opening act for her Red tour. But they duetted again in 2017 on the Reputation album with the song Endgame. And then in 2021, when Taylor re released her album Red, Taylor's version in the Vault Songs was a duet by her and Ed Sheeran called Run. And then a year later in 2022, she and Ed duetted again and collaborated again on a song called The Joker and the Queen, which I guess is supposed to be like a follow up to the song Everything Has Changed. And the kid in the video for Everything Has Changed, it's the same actor in the video for The Joker and the Queen. But I'm not a fan of the song The Joker and the Queen, I'm sorry. So I consider that more of an Ed Sheeran song than a Taylor Swift song. Jennifer Lopez and Taylor Swift performed Jenny from the Block in 2013 when Taylor was touring for Red, and they've always said they admired each other's work. But I've heard Jennifer Lopez is not a very nice person. I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, it's obvious that no matter how mean of a person you might be, you are going to know and learn how to be nice or pretend to be nice when there's a person of real power who you can have maybe a transactional relationship with. Ethan Hawke was in her video for Fortnight, which is from the Tortured Poets Department album, and that was kind of a riff on the Dead Poets Society. So some of the actors from the Dead Poets Society were actually in the video for Fortnight. So I thought that was pretty cool. Jimmy Fallon has had Taylor Swift on his show 7 different times, and they've always kind of worked together as collaborators on the show as opposed to being like a host and a guest. So they did a thing like A Box of Lies, which was really funny, and she performed her song New Year's Day from her Reputation album. She performed that song shortly after Jimmy Fallon's mother passed away. So he was there. But again, she was on Ellen DeGeneres at least that many times, and Ellen wasn't there and Ellen wasn't invited. So that was something from my last video that I did on who Taylor did not invite to her wedding. In 2014, Taylor Swift met Gigi Hadid, and they've been like besties ever since. I think of them more as besties than I've ever thought of her and Blake Lively. And Gigi Hadid is Yolanda Hadid's daughter, if you didn't know. And Yolanda Hadid was a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast member who had Lyme disease and who was married to David Foster. And then they divorced, and now David Foster's with Katharine McPhee, who's like, 50 years younger than him. Anyway, but Gigi Hadid was also in Taylor's music video Bad Blood that came out in 2015. That's off her 1989 album. And Bad Blood was about Katy Perry. And Katy Perry and Taylor Swift obviously made up from their feud because Katy Perry was actually invited to Taylor Swift's wedding, even though she couldn't make it because of scheduling conflicts. And you can learn more about that in my other video on who was not invited to, or who did not attend Taylor Swift's wedding. But another fact about Gigi Hadid is that she dated Joe Jonas, who Taylor Swift had dated years earlier, and then put him on blast on the Ellen DeGeneres show when he broke up with her and let the world know that he broke up with her through like a 30-second voicemail. And obviously she made up with Joe Jonas as well because he did come to her wedding. But if you remember when Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner divorced, and there was a lot of publicity, negative publicity about Sophie Turner, Taylor Swift went out to dinner and made appearances with Sophie Turner to make sure the world knew that she was on Sophie Turner's side. So, but I guess there's not bad blood between her and Joe Jonas or Katy Perry anymore. Hugh Grant attended her 2024 Eras Tour at Wembley Stadium in London, and he said it was for his kid. He attended with his wife and one of his kids, and I guess he reached out to Taylor's team, I guess to get the VIP tickets, which you can do if you're a celebrity, apparently, obviously. And he met Travis Kelce there at the concert, and they had a few drinks together and talked and liked each other. So I guess Hugh Grant was invited and went to her wedding. How does she know Bradley Cooper? Well, he's dating Gigi Hadid, her bestie. So that's how Taylor Swift knows Bradley Cooper. And if you know from the Blake Lively debacle, Bradley Cooper was one of the A-listers that Blake Lively called and tried to get him to watch her edit of the movie and approve her edit of the movie, and thanked him in the movie's credits. So I have a feeling that neither he nor Gigi want anything to do with Blake Lively anymore. Taylor and Stevie Nicks met at the 2010 Grammy Awards, and they sang a duet together of Taylor's You Belong With Me and Fleetwood Mac's Rhiannon. And then also later that year, Stevie Nicks wrote about Taylor Swift for Times 100 article, and they've just said a lot of really nice things about each other over the years. I guess that Taylor's song You Belong With Me, Kid, off of her 2022 Midnights album, was a song that was really loved by Stevie Nicks, who said it helped her heal after the death of her friend and bandmate Christine McVie. And I don't know if I said that name right. But yeah, so they've been like, it's a mutual close friendship that I don't think is performative. I think it's real. And then Stevie Nicks actually, and of course she went to her Eras tour and her various concerts of Taylor's. And then Stevie performed at Taylor Swift's wedding, and I don't know what song she performed. That's what I want to know. I know Paul McCartney did I Want to Hold Your Hand, but I don't know what Stevie Nicks did. What do you think? What do you guys think? What would be a good song for Stevie Nicks to have performed at Taylor's wedding? So Taylor's relationship with Zoe Kravitz is really a cool one. They met around 2016 because they had like similar circles of friends. And then Taylor and she became really close and hung out like personally a lot. It wasn't performative or for industry things. And during the isolation of COVID, Taylor would make dinner and make food and meals and send them over to Zoe Kravitz. And Zoe's since praised Taylor's amazing cooking skills, apparently. Also, the time that they were quarantined in London was when Zoe Kravitz was filming The Batman, and Taylor Swift lived in London at that time. That's where we get the song London Boy from, and So Long London. It's also Zoe Kravitz co-wrote Karma and Lavender Haze from Taylor's 2022 Midnights album, and she does background vocals on Lavender Haze, and everyone loves the song Lavender Haze. Jack Antonoff is a frequent collaborator and producer on Taylor Swift's albums. Ever since 1989, he produced songs like Out of the Woods, Look What You Made Me Do, Cruel Summer, August, Illicit Affairs, Exile, Down Bad, Fresh Out the Slammer, a lot of songs, a lot of people's favorite songs of hers. And the only album he did not collaborate with her on is her most recent album, The Life of a Showgirl. At least the only album he hasn't collaborated with her on since 2013, because he didn't meet her until after her first 4 albums were completed. But of course, he was at the wedding, but his wife, Margaret Qualley, and I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce her name because I've read about her, but I actually haven't heard her name pronounced, so I apologize. But they are breaking up right now. And so there's some tension before somebody had asked this couple about, why he wasn't working with, or what he thought about Taylor's newest album. And there was like this awkward moment, and people don't know if that awkward moment was because they were having issues in their relationship, him and his wife, or if the awkward moment was because he wasn't on Taylor's newest album and maybe there was some issues with Taylor and they weren't prepared to talk about it. I don't know. But Jack Antonoff was there, and his wife, who is also a friend of Taylor's, the actress Margaret, who's Andie MacDowell's daughter, she was not there. Tom Hanks was at Taylor Swift's wedding, him and Rita Wilson, his wife, and he's, I almost said Buzz Lightyear. He's Woody from Toy Story, and we all know that Taylor Swift wrote a song for that movie, And apparently she met Tom Hanks at the premiere, and they became close enough for her to invite him to her wedding. Taylor Swift knows Steven Spielberg because he and his wife, Kate Capshaw, were on set in 2021 when she was filming the song I Bet You Think About Me from when she was re-recording her albums. And they were so excited to be with Taylor and about the concept of her video that Kate Capshaw offered to do this like one shot, one take opening scene in the music video, which was actually directed by Blake Lively. So Taylor Swift and Jennifer Lawrence have been friends since around 2012 when Jennifer Lawrence was speaking in interviews about being a Swiftie, and then Taylor reached out to her, and Jennifer Lawrence was saying that Taylor was just the coolest person ever. And they both have mutual friends like Emma Stone and Taylor, especially in the mid 2000s, like 2012, 13, 14, 15, when she met Jennifer Lawrence. Taylor was known for her Rhode Island 4th of July parties, and Jennifer Lawrence attended a few of those. Jennifer attended the Eras tour. So yes, they are friends, and Jennifer Lawrence scored an invite to Taylor's wedding. There's even record of Jennifer joking that Taylor Swift is the only person who she will drop everything she's doing to respond to a text if Taylor sends it. No one else, just Taylor. So Emma Stone and Taylor Swift have been friends for like 15 years. They met at the 2008 Young Hollywood Awards right after Superbad came out, which is the movie that Emma Stone was in, one of her very first movies, and Taylor Swift's album Fearless came out. So neither one of them were at the height of their fame when they met. But they met and they, gave each other advice on how to navigate Hollywood as young women. And they remain friends to this day, obviously. And Emma Stone has gone to many of Taylor's shows, specifically during the Eras tour. And I think that Taylor Swift just recently went to the after party for Poor Things, a movie that Emma Stone was in. And I believe she won an Oscar for Best Actress for that film. So Taylor Swift and Joe Jonas dated for a few months in 2008. And then he broke up with her in the 27-second voicemail, and she called him out about that on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and that stirred up a lot of controversy. And then later she said that maybe she shouldn't have done that, and they since made up. And then he dated and married Sophie Turner, and Taylor was friends with the couple. But when they divorced or broke up, Sophie and Joe, in 2023, Taylor made it very clear that her allegiance was with Sophie Turner, I thought, because there is controversy that Sophie Turner was out partying and not really taking care of the kids. And then people got really mad because they thought that Joe Jonas was adding to this narrative, trying to make Sophie look bad, and it wasn't fair. So there's this big scandal about that. And then Taylor Swift made sure to be seen out in public with Sophie Turner and allowed Sophie Turner to stay at one of her houses. And so to me, it looked like Taylor was picking sides and picking Sophie Turner's side, but Sophie Turner was not at her wedding, I don't think, but Joe Jonas was. So obviously they have stayed friends. Another person that Taylor dated who she's remained friends with is Taylor Lautner. And I don't know, I have not heard that he was at her wedding. That's going to be the next thing I look up. I have to add this. There are 3 songs of Taylor's that are supposed to be about Joe Jonas, including Forever and Always. You didn't mean it, did you? Last Kiss and Mr. Perfectly Fine. Dakota Johnson and Taylor Swift met around the mid-2000s, and they have a lot of mutual friends, including Zoe Kravitz and Cara Delevingne. And Dakota was in the 50 Shades of Grey franchise or series. So she's good friends with Taylor Swift. And also Dakota Johnson dated Chris Martin from Coldplay for a long time. And then Taylor became friends or friendly with Chris Martin, came out and said that she was a Coldplay fan. So Paul Rudd and Taylor Swift have run in the same Hollywood circles and have been at some of the same events. and have met each other before, but he was really there more as a fan and a friend of Travis Kelce and a fan of the I almost said a bad word, the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like it's just, I feel like I keep getting tongue twisters. So Paul McCartney and Taylor Swift have always been mutual admirers of each other, and they both kind of understand, and extremely few people do understand, the level of fame that they both achieved in their life. In 2020, they had mutual interviews where he interviewed her and she interviewed him about really deep things, and they spent hours at this interview, and they learned a lot about each other, and they've remained close. And he was at her Eras tour in Wembley Stadium in London, and he was participating in the friendship bracelet making process. So it was kind of a fun story. But also, Paul McCartney's daughter, Stella McCartney, who is a vegan fashion designer and very famous in her own right, in her own industry, she was also at Taylor Swift's wedding, and she had worked with Taylor in the past, and she designed all the merchandise, or some of the merchandise. I don't know if it was all of the merchandise for the Lover era and for that album. And if you know anything about the Lover album, it's all pastel and, like the Me music video, like pastel. And it's just, I love it. I love that whole aesthetic. If you don't know who Erin Andrews is, there's this big controversy or thing that happened years ago where she's a sports broadcaster and sports journalist, but she was in a hotel and not dressed, and somebody was able to sneak a hidden camera into the hotel room and filmed her, and that went everywhere, this video of her not dressed, and she sued and she got a lot of money. She sued the hotel, and then she went on Dancing with the Stars and did well, and then became a host on Dancing with the Stars. But that's Erin Andrews. And so she always liked Taylor's music and admired Taylor Swift, but it wasn't until Taylor started dating Travis where Erin Andrews became even closer to the couple, because she has that connection to the sports world. But actually Erin Andrews made a public appeal in 2023 for Travis to date Taylor Swift. So she likes to think that she's the one that helped bring them together, even though I thought it was Taylor's mom who brought them together. Maybe it was a mutual effort. So Nikki Glaser is the comedian best known for her recent roast of Tom Brady. And I was excited for her because she's a huge Swiftie and she talks about that all the time. And I didn't know that Taylor Swift even really knew her. I don't know. I didn't know that they'd ever actually connected, except that at Nikki's, one of her shows or documentaries, or when she was on a podcast, she talked about how badly she felt because she had made some joke about Taylor Swift being really skinny. And I guess that didn't sit well with Taylor Swift, who was struggling with an eating disorder at that time. But in Miss Americana, Taylor Swift's documentary that came out on Netflix years ago, there's a scene or a little blip of Nikki Glaser's joke about Taylor's weight. And so when Nikki saw that, she was like, oh gosh, that joke must have really bothered Taylor Swift. And I think she did apologize, and then Taylor reached out to her after that. But it's been this long time thing where Nikki talks all the time about being a huge Swiftie. And she was one of the judges on American Idol when the contestants had to do a Taylor Swift song. And so I was, anybody who knows Nikki Glaser at all knows that she's a huge Swiftie. So it was kind of cool for her that she got an invite to Taylor Swift's wedding.